What would you sacrifice for a taste of the life you've always dreamed of? A quiet marriage, a small-town house with a white picket fence, a man who brings you flowers every Friday and asks how your day was. Safe, predictable, warm like an old sweater. But what if that same life began to suffocate you? What if the person who once made your heart race now barely made it beat? This is the story of a woman who traded everything for passion, for adventure, for a man who made her feel seen again. But what she didn't know was that behind all that glitter was a trap and a secret that would change everything. She thought she was chasing a fantasy. She didn't know she was carrying twins. Let's begin. The knife slid through the lasagna with a soft crunch, and Emily smiled as she served a slice onto Mark's plate. The candlelight flickered gently across the dining table. Their 10-year anniversary dinner, homemade, quiet, exactly what Mark thought she loved. "This looks amazing," he said, taking her hand across the table. She smiled, nodded, but her eyes drifted to her phone, vibrating silently on the counter. A new message. She already knew who it was from. "You okay?" Mark asked, tilting his head. "Yeah," she replied quickly. "Just tired." Mark lifted his glass. "To us." Emily clinked hers against his. "To us." But in her mind she wasn't there. Not in the dining room, not in Ohio. She was already somewhere else, on a balcony in Miami, wind in her hair, and a voice telling her she was extraordinary. Mark continued talking about the school district budget cuts, something Emily used to care about. Now it just sounded like static. She glanced at the clock. 15 minutes until she could slip away to the bathroom and read what Chase had sent her. Later that night, while Mark brushed his teeth, Emily curled up in bed and unlocked her phone. The message lit up the screen. "Chase M. Saw your latest post. That smile. Dangerous. Makes me wish I was there." Her heart skipped. The way he wrote, it was like he could see right through her, past the politeness, the routine, the mask. She typed back quickly. "Emily, you'd be disappointed. My life isn't that interesting. Chase, that's because you're playing small. You weren't meant for ordinary." Mark walked into the bedroom. Emily hid her phone under the covers like a teenager caught texting. He sat beside her. "I was thinking, we should try that bed and breakfast in Vermont next month. Change of scenery, just us." She nodded. "Sounds nice." But it didn't, not really. The idea of another quiet getaway, another weekend of small talk and familiar silences, it made her chest tighten. When the lights went out, she lay awake, listening to Mark's breathing, replaying Chase's words. "You weren't meant for ordinary." That line stayed with her. The next morning, she walked into her classroom. The kids buzzed around their desks, and Ms. Simmons down the hall waved at her with a coffee cup. Emily forced a smile, but inside she was drifting. The chalkboard, the fluorescent lights, the smell of markers, it all felt like someone else's life. During lunch, she stepped outside and called her sister. "I don't know what's happening to me," she whispered. "I feel like I'm two people. One that shows up to work, cooks dinner, smiles, and the other is chasing something dangerous," her sister finished. "I think I need to be that second person, just for a little while." That night, Mark wrapped his arms around her in bed. "I don't say this enough," he murmured, "but I love you. You're everything to me." She turned to face the wall. "You too," she said, but she didn't mean it, not anymore. And as Mark drifted off, Emily unlocked her phone again. Another message from Chase. "Chase, come see me. I'll send the ticket, first class. You'll never want to go back." She stared at the screen. Maybe she wouldn't. The boarding pass glowed on her phone screen like a forbidden secret. Flight 2931, Columbus to Miami, first class. Emily sat in her car in the school parking lot, hands trembling slightly. She hadn't told anyone, not her sister, not even her best friend. Chase had sent the ticket without hesitation, as if flying her across the country was as casual as ordering lunch. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She could still cancel, but she didn't. Instead, she typed, "Emily, I'll be there. Chase, good girl." The words made her stomach flip. He always knew how to say just enough to keep her leaning in, craving more attention, more thrill, more of the person she imagined herself to be when she talked to him. The day she left Ohio was grey and damp. Mark was at work, thinking she was taking a mental health day. She'd left a carefully worded note, nothing dramatic, just, "I need time to think." She placed it next to his coffee mug and walked out the door without looking back. As the plane lifted off, Emily stared out the window, her heart racing. A life was dissolving behind her. A new one was waiting. When she stepped into the Miami terminal, the air hit her like perfume, hot, salty, electric. And there he was. Chase Montgomery didn't look like a tech millionaire. No hoodie, no awkward shuffle. He wore designer shades, a crisp white linen shirt open just enough to suggest confidence without arrogance. His smile was sharp, disarming. "You look even better in person," he said, pulling her into a side hug. "I can't believe I'm here," she replied, still gripping the handle of her suitcase like a lifeline. "You'll never want to leave," he said, and kissed her cheek. The drive to his condo was full of flirtation and laughter. He played jazz with Latin undertones and told her stories about art shows and underground parties. She laughed more in 30 minutes than she had in months. Then they arrived. The penthouse overlooked the water, glass walls, marble floors, a wine fridge larger than her kitchen back home. "Make yourself at home," he said, tossing her a key card. "You're safe here." Later that evening, they dined on the rooftop of a 5-star hotel. Champagne flowed, her cheeks flushed from the sun and the attention. "You really just left?" he asked, toying with a shrimp skewer. Emily nodded. "I think I was gone long before I packed a bag." Chase leaned in. "I don't think you even know what you're capable of yet." She stared at him. "What if I mess this up?" "You won't. I see you, Emily, and I don't plan to look away." By the time the sun dipped behind the skyline, she was no longer thinking of Ohio. Mark was just a ghost in a different life, one she had stepped out of like a skin. That night on Chase's balcony they kissed. Not the hesitant practiced kiss of routine love, but something wild and unfiltered. Her heart didn't just flutter, it roared. Inside, as she slipped under the silk sheets of a bed too soft to feel real, she opened her messages. Nothing from Mark, nothing at all. And somehow, that hurt more than she expected. Mark sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the note Emily had left. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. He read it again and again, hoping new words would appear, something that made it make sense. "I need time to think." What did that even mean? Think about what? About them. About him. He picked up her pillow and brought it to his chest. It still smelled like her shampoo, lavender and vanilla. The scent twisted something deep in his gut. By lunchtime he was pacing. He called her phone. No answer. He sent a text. "Mark. Emily, where are you? Can we talk?" Delivered, not read. He waited. Back in Miami, Emily was adjusting to her new reality. Chase had arranged a personal trainer, a private chef, and even suggested she consider taking time to write if she ever had that book in her. Everything felt like a dream. But dreams, she would soon learn, don't stay light and airy forever. "You look distracted," Chase said one morning as they sipped cold brew on the balcony. "I'm just adjusting," Emily replied, brushing her hair behind her ear. "It's a lot." "You didn't change your number," he noted. She froze. "Excuse me?" He shrugged. "Just, you said you were leaving everything behind, but you still have the same number, same Instagram, same email." "I didn't think I had to erase my identity." Chase leaned back, smirking. "Of course not. Just, if someone wants to disappear, they usually don't leave breadcrumbs." It was the first time his words felt sharp, like a subtle warning. Meanwhile, Mark was digging. He logged into their shared laptop. Open tabs revealed everything. Flights to Miami, hotel searches, even a saved photo of a man tagged Chase M. Tech. He clicked the profile. Public. A verified millionaire, Young, stylish, thousands of followers. Mark scrolled through photo after photo of Chase on yachts, at art galas, at Silicon Valley panels. It made Mark's stomach churn. But then he saw the comment. Emily says, "Looks like heaven." He clicked. Her burner account. She thought she was clever. She wasn't. That night, he called her again. Still nothing. Emily sat across from Chase at dinner, watching him devour steak while talking about crypto and how boring most people were. "I like that you're not basic," he said. "Most women, they want the label, the ring, the mortgage. He pointed at her. "You get it." She smiled, but her eyes flickered to her phone under the table. 3 missed calls, all from Mark. She locked the screen. "You still haven't blocked him," Chase said casually, sipping his wine. Emily looked up. "You checked my phone?" Chase raised an eyebrow. "I'm not stupid, Emily. I know what it feels like to be lied to." She stared at him, heart racing. "It's not about lying," she said. "It's about untangling." He leaned in, voice low. "Just make sure you know what side you're on." That night, Emily stood in the bathroom, toothbrush idle in her mouth, staring at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked foreign. The silk robe, the high-rise glow behind her, the diamond earrings Chase had gifted her this morning. She opened her phone again. "Mark, I saw everything. I know who he is. But I'm still here." She closed the phone, sat on the edge of the tub, and cried for the first time in days. The plane ticket back to Ohio sat untouched on the marble counter. Chase had left it there after their latest argument, silent, loaded with meaning. "If you miss it so much," he'd said, dropping the envelope with an audible slap, "then go back." Emily hadn't picked it up. She didn't even look at it. Not until he left for a meeting, slamming the door behind him. She stood over it now, staring. Her name printed in neat block letters, a return to normalcy, to Mark, to what she once called home. But she didn't move. Instead, she slipped into a black dress, the one Chase said made her look unapologetically dangerous, and headed to the rooftop party he'd told her to attend without him. "Make friends," he'd said with a cold smile. "Remind yourself what you left behind." The elevator doors opened to a pulse of music and golden light. Miami's elite buzzed around her like bees, their perfume and confidence thick in the air. She accepted a drink from a stranger, laughed at a joke she didn't quite hear, let herself be pulled into conversations about gallery openings, startup launches, and yacht renovations. But her mind kept drifting. To Mark. To the quiet predictability she had escaped. To the look in his eyes when she left, and the fact that he hadn't stopped reaching out. Not even once. Later, Chase arrived. He didn't walk. He owned the space. Heads turned, smiles widened. His hand found Emily's waist like it belonged there. "You clean up well," he said, kissing her cheek. "See? You belong here." "Do I?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. They danced, close, too close. He whispered things into her ear, compliments that tasted like champagne and danger. But halfway through the song, she stepped back. "I'm going home," she said. Chase blinked. "To the condo?" She shook her head. "No," she said. "Home." The rooftop quieted around her. Though the music kept playing, Chase's smile vanished. "I gave you everything," he said, voice low. "You gave me a fantasy," she replied. "But it's not mine." He reached for her wrist. "You don't walk away from this." She pulled free. "I already did." Emily left the party with shaking hands. Her heels clicked against the pavement like punctuation marks in a sentence she had just finished writing. Back at the condo, she didn't pack. She only took her purse, her phone, and the note Mark had left on her voicemail that morning. "I'm still here," he had said. "If you ever find your way back, I'll be home." But as she waited for her ride to the airport, a wave of nausea hit her. Sudden, violent. She barely made it to the bathroom. And there, on the cold tiles, something shifted. By morning, she wouldn't be thinking about luxury or redemption. She'd be thinking about the 2 pink lines that would appear on a plastic test, just hours away from revealing a new truth. Not just one life at stake anymore, 2. Emily sat on the edge of the oversized bathtub, pregnancy test in hand, staring at the two faint pink lines. The world around her blurred. The marble floors, the soft lighting, the scent of gardenias from the diffuser. It all felt artificial now, like a dream she'd accidentally wandered into. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just breathed. 2 lines, 2 lives. She placed the test on the counter and walked out of the bathroom, trying to collect herself before Chase returned. He'd left for a brunch meeting with investors, which gave her a few hours of solitude, something that had become increasingly rare. Everything had changed since she said she wanted to go home. Chase hadn't forced her to stay. He'd simply wrapped her in guilt and silk. "You're not thinking clearly," he'd said. "You're overwhelmed. Let me take care of you." And then he'd booked a private massage therapist, stocked the fridge with her favorite snacks, and made sure her phone mysteriously stopped receiving calls from Ohio. She confronted him once. "I'm not getting Mark's messages anymore," she said. Chase had tilted his head. Maybe he stopped sending them. Emily didn't believe him, but she let it go. It was easier than fighting. That evening, she sat beside him on the couch, watching a documentary on disruptive tech startups. "You ever think about kids?" she asked. Chase sipped his whiskey. "Not unless they come with stock options." Emily laughed awkwardly. "Seriously?" He glanced at her. "I'm not the parenting type. You know that." She nodded, but didn't say anything else. The next morning he noticed the test in the trash. "Emily," he called from the bathroom. "What is this?" Her heart sank. She walked in slowly, crossing her arms. "I was going to tell you." Chase held up the test like it was a grenade. "You're pregnant." She nodded. "With mine?" She hesitated. "I don't know." Silence filled the space like a bomb going off without sound. Chase placed the test down, carefully, then turned to her. "You should have told me sooner." "I just found out," she whispered. Still, the rest of the day was cold, clinical. Chase left for another meeting. No hug, no kiss, no goodbye. Emily sat alone for hours, hands over her stomach, wondering what she'd done, wondering what she should do next. By nightfall, Chase returned. He stood at the bedroom door, watching her without speaking. Finally, he said, "If they're mine, we'll deal with it. If they're not, don't expect me to play dad." Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm not asking you to," she replied. The next morning, there was no massage therapist, no stocked fridge, no soft music playing through the speakers. The luxury hadn't disappeared, but the warmth had. She walked to the window, looking down at the endless city, the shimmering coastline, the unreachable horizon. And then she whispered something to herself that she hadn't dared say out loud until now. "I want to go home." But she didn't know if home would want her back. Not after everything. Not after this. The morning light filtered through the blinds, striping the bed in lines of gold and shadow. Emily hadn't slept. Her body felt foreign, nausea twisting her stomach, her thoughts circling like vultures. She pulled out the ultrasound photo from her purse, just a grainy image, but it felt heavier than anything she'd ever held. 2 small flickers of life. 2 heartbeats. Twins. The doctor had said she was around 9 weeks. That meant conception had likely happened in Ohio, before Chase. A fact that brought both relief and dread. They're probably Mark's. But she hadn't told Chase that part. Not yet. She walked into the kitchen where Chase stood pouring espresso like nothing had changed. "Good morning," he said without looking up. "I have something to tell you," she said, voice thin. He set the cup down, finally meeting her eyes. "Is this about the test?" She nodded. "It's twins." Chase's smile faltered for a split second. "Twins," he echoed. "Congratulations." "They're probably not yours," she said, watching his reaction carefully. Chase raised his eyebrows, then laughed, a single sharp burst. "Well, that's a hell of a twist," he said, sipping his coffee. "What are you planning to do?" "I don't know." He set the cup down a bit harder than necessary. "You're in my house, under my roof, And you're pregnant with someone else's kids. I didn't plan this, Chase. Didn't you? He snapped. The words struck her like ice water. He stepped back, shaking his head. Sorry, that was unfair. But Emily saw something behind his eyes now. Something that made her skin crawl. Later, while Chase was out, she searched for her phone. Her real phone. Not the one he'd given her with the curated contact list and app restrictions. She found it in a drawer in his office, turned off, SIM card removed. She stared at it for a long time. When he returned, she acted normal. How was the meeting? She asked. Profitable, he said, smiling as if they were still playing house. That night, as they lay in bed, Chase draped an arm over her stomach. His voice was soft, but his words were anything but. If they're not mine, Emily, you'll need to figure out what happens next. She didn't respond. She waited until he fell asleep, then slipped out of bed and into the office again. She reinserted the SIM card into her phone and powered it on. Messages flooded in. Dozens from Mark, from her sister. Missed calls, voicemails. Her chest tightened. She listened to one from Mark. Emily, I don't care how mad I was. I just need to know you're okay. I miss you. I miss us. Please, call me. She swallowed hard. The next day, she found a hidden camera in the guest bathroom, tucked above the mirror, almost invisible. Her heart pounded as she stared at it. Then she searched the rest of the condo. One in the kitchen vent, another in the corner of the bedroom. Not one. Many. She sat on the floor, legs folded beneath her, and for the first time in weeks, the walls of luxury started to feel like a cage. Chase wasn't just watching her now. He had always been. The sound of the front door unlocking froze Emily in place. She quickly shoved her phone under the couch cushion and tried to steady her breathing. Chase walked in, holding a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite. Thought you might need a little light, he said, smiling too wide. Emily forced a nod. Thanks. He kissed her forehead. You okay? You look pale. I didn't sleep much. Understandable, a lot's happening, he said, setting the flowers in a vase with practiced ease. But I've been thinking, maybe we should start over. Clean slate. Her pulse thudded in her ears. What does that mean? Delete the past, your old accounts, new phone, new identity even. If you want a fresh start, Emily, I'll give it to you. She tried to keep her voice calm. And if I say no? Chase turned to her slowly. Why would you say no? She didn't answer, just stared at the lilies, their petals wide open like mouths mid-scream. That afternoon she told him she needed air. He offered to come with her. She insisted on going alone. 10 minutes later, she sat at a quiet cafe 2 blocks away, pretending to read a book while texting her sister from the hidden phone. Emily, I need help. Don't reply. Just read this. I think he's watching me. She slid the phone into her bag and returned to the condo. Chase was in the kitchen cooking. He smiled as she walked in. You were gone a while. Got distracted. Anyone interesting? No one. Good, he said, handing her a glass of wine. I'd hate to think you're not happy. That night, he didn't sleep beside her. He stayed in his office until dawn, typing, talking to someone on the phone in hushed tones. She could hear parts of it. Oh, I don't care whose they are. I'm not raising them. She needs to decide. She barely closed her eyes. By morning, her sister had replied, cryptic, short, careful. Sister, got it. Working on it. Emily deleted the message. Later that day, she noticed the app on her backup phone, one Chase had installed for her safety, was active again. She opened it. Live camera feeds. From inside the condo. From her phone. He was watching everything. She confronted him. What is this, Chase? He glanced at the screen and shrugged. Security. You're carrying precious cargo. That's not your decision. You're in my home. You don't get to make those kinds of decisions without me. You're not my husband. His eyes narrowed. You think that matters now? Emily turned away, trying not to shake. Behind her, Chase added quietly, You know I love you, right? This is all just temporary, until we're on the same page. She didn't respond. That night she wrote a letter to Mark, handwritten, raw, honest. I was selfish, I was blind, I thought I wanted freedom, but all I found was a prison with glass walls. I never stopped loving you. If you still love me, if there's even a piece of you that remembers who we were, I need you. She folded the letter, slid it into an envelope, and hid it in her suitcase. She didn't know how or when she'd send it, but she would. She had to, because she finally knew what she needed: to get out. The letter sat at the bottom of Emily's suitcase for 3 days. She read it each night before bed, silently mouthing the words like a prayer she was too afraid to say aloud. She imagined Mark opening it, his eyes scanning the page, his face shifting from shock to pain to, maybe, something softer. She pictured him standing on their porch, letter in hand, deciding whether or not to call her. But the letter stayed unsent. Instead, she carried it with her like a charm, as if its presence alone might guide her out of the mess she'd made. On the 4th morning, Chase handed her a plane ticket. "New York," he said. "We're going next week. I have meetings, but you'll love the hotel. Spa, shopping, views of the skyline." Emily glanced at the date. "Next week?" she asked. "You need a change of scenery," he replied. "Fresh perspective." She nodded, but her mind raced. If she left Miami, her chances of escaping would shrink. New environment, new cameras, new cage. That evening, she waited until Chase stepped out for a phone call, then unlocked the safe he thought she didn't know about. It was tucked behind a mirror in the hallway, just like he'd bragged to a friend during a drunken dinner once. Inside, cash, passports, hard drives, and her note to Mark. The one she'd left beside the coffee mug in Ohio, folded neatly, unopened. Her breath caught in her throat. He took it. He had it all along. She closed the safe, heart pounding. The next morning she pretended to oversleep. Chase had gone for a workout, leaving her a green smoothie on the kitchen counter. She dumped it down the sink. Then she opened her suitcase and pulled out the letter. This time she didn't just reread it. She rewrote it. "Mark, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I left because I thought I was chasing something real. I found lies. I found silence. I found fear. I'm pregnant with twins. The doctor says they're likely yours. I don't know what to do, but I know I don't want them to grow up thinking love is control. I want them to know what safety feels like, what kindness sounds like, what home means. If there's any part of you that can still see the girl who once loved you purely, help her." She sealed it, addressed it to his parents' house, just in case he no longer lived there. Then she waited. That night, Chase returned early. "Why were you in the hallway?" he asked. "I couldn't sleep," she lied. He stared at her for a beat too long. "Don't lie to me, Emily." "I'm not." He walked to the window, gazing out. "You know, I thought about marrying you," he said. She blinked. "What?" "Before all this. Before the baby. Before I knew who you really were." Emily kept her voice steady. "And who am I?" Chase turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "A runner," he said. "But I always catch what runs from me." That night she didn't sleep. The letter was gone by morning. She had mailed it before he could stop her. And now all she could do was wait and plan, because she was done hiding. The first key to escape was timing. Emily knew Chase kept a strict morning routine. Gym at 7, smoothie at 8, calls by 9. He followed it like a religion, which gave her exactly 23 minutes. She'd rehearsed it in her head for days. At 7:02 a.m., as soon as he stepped into the elevator, she moved. Backpack already packed. Letter gone. Mailed 3 days ago. New burner phone hidden in her sock. Cash tucked in the lining of her coat. She didn't call a cab. Too traceable. Instead, she walked 3 blocks south to an old bookstore with a tiny alley behind it, where Daniel, the retired Navy vet from 2 floors down, waited in a beat-up black Jeep. "You ready?" he asked, eyes sharp, voice low. She nodded. "Once we pull out, there's no turning back." "I know." He didn't ask why, didn't need to. Emily had knocked on his door 2 nights ago, trembling, with a bruised arm she didn't explain, just said, "I need to leave," quietly. And Daniel, who'd seen war and worse, just nodded. They pulled onto the street, the city waking up around them, unaware of the woman who was quietly disappearing. But Chase wasn't stupid. By 8:14 a.m., he'd returned from the gym early. No smoothie, no calls, just silence. The condo was too quiet. Emily's phone was gone, her backpack gone, her perfume gone. He checked the security app. Cameras black. "Emily," he said aloud, voice calm but dark. He looked at the office, the safe, slightly ajar, the note from Ohio, missing. His hands clenched. He opened his own phone and dialed. "She ran," he told someone. "Track her." In the Jeep, Emily's breath came shallow and quick. Daniel handed her a baseball cap and sunglasses. "They've got facial recognition at the airport. Don't look at anyone, don't talk. I've got a friend who can get you through." "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "Just survive." They reached the private side of the airport where Daniel's contact, an old mechanic with access badges and no questions, let them in through a service gate. But Chase's people were already moving. One black SUV pulled into the terminal lot. Another idled at the departures lane. "They're here," Daniel muttered. Emily froze. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Plan B." They ran. Down a maintenance stairwell, through a locked hallway, out a side door that emptied into an alley between hangars. A small cargo plane sat 50 yards away, engines warming. "That's yours," Daniel said. "Pilot owes me a favor." Emily looked back once, just once. One of the men from the SUV spotted her, yelled, started running. "Go!" Daniel shouted, pushing her forward. She sprinted across the tarmac, her body heavy, lungs burning, the weight of the twins pulling at her core. The pilot waved her in. She climbed aboard just as the man reached the wing. The door slammed shut. Engines roared. The runway rolled beneath them. And then they lifted. Miami shrank below. She exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding for weeks. She didn't know where she was landing, but she knew where she was heading. Home. The plane touched down in Ohio just after midnight. Emily stepped off the tarmac into cold air that bit her cheeks and made her eyes water. It wasn't Miami's seductive heat. It was honest, bracing, real. Daniel's contact had arranged a quiet car to meet her. No names, no questions, just a silent ride through the sleeping suburbs until they reached the edge of town. She asked the driver to stop at the end of the block. She wanted to walk the last few steps alone. Mark's house still had the same porch light. The wreath on the door was different, blue and silver now, winter colors. Her hand trembled as she raised it to knock, but the door opened before she could. Mark stood there. No surprise in his eyes, just a quiet ache that mirrored her own. "You got my letter," she said. "I got both," he replied, voice rough. She nodded. "I didn't know where else to go." He stepped aside. "Come in." The warmth of the house hit her like a wave. The same couch. The same photographs. A new coat on the rack, maybe his sister's or someone else's. Her heart thudded. "I don't expect anything," she said, turning to face him. "Not forgiveness, not answers. I need a safe place. For them." She rested a hand on her stomach. Mark's eyes dropped to it, then back to her face. "Are they mine?" he asked. "I think so. The timing. It's almost certain." He nodded slowly. Then he walked to the kitchen and returned with a glass of water, set it gently on the table in front of her, like a peace offering. "You can stay," he said, "for as long as you need." Emily sat, tears slipping down her cheeks. She hadn't planned to cry, but this moment, this mercy, was more than she deserved. He sat across from her. "Do you love him?" he asked. She shook her head. "I never really did. I loved how he looked at me, how he made me feel. But it wasn't real. It was control. A mirror held up to a version of me I thought I wanted." Mark nodded again. "And what do you want now?" She looked at him through wet lashes. "To heal." The next few weeks passed quietly. No grand declarations, no overnight forgiveness, just small gestures. Dinner, laughter during dishes, a shared memory now and then. And slowly, something began to mend. At her first ultrasound appointment in town, Mark sat beside her. The doctor turned the monitor toward them. 2 strong heartbeats, she said. Mark smiled softly, reached for Emily's hand. She let him take it. Later, as they walked back to the car, he looked at her. "They're going to know love," he said. "Not confusion, not fear. Just love." Emily squeezed his hand. I think I needed to break before I could build again." Mark nodded. "Then let's build." And as snow began to fall, dusting the world in quiet white, Emily realized she wasn't running anymore. She was returning. Not to the past, but to something new, something honest, something real.